as composers utilized new instruments and expanded their musical language. We opened the program with a short work for brass by Claudio Monteverdi. He was the last of the true Renaissance composers. The Renaissance period, which is kind of defined as being from the 14th to the 17th century, was a fervent period of European cultural, artistic, political, and economic rebirth following the Middle Ages. In terms of music, Renaissance composers would compose works that had little or no identification of what instruments or voices were to play the various lines of music. Instead, any performance would depend on what musicians, instruments, or indeed voices were around at the time. Monteverdi, however, was perhaps the first musical revolutionary. He was not content with this haphazard way of creating performances, so he started to write for specific instruments within his compositions. He, in essence, created the first orchestral ensemble. The basis of Monteverdi's orchestra was bowed string instruments. This was the backbone of the ensemble. Monteverdi was the bridge between the Renaissance and the Baroque period, which basically extends from 1600 to 1750. Bach and Vivaldi were pre-eminent composers of the Baroque era and solidified the string orchestra as a fundamental unit, comprised of violins divided into two sections, violas, kind of slightly larger version of the violin, cellos, and double bass. And composers took advantage of the wide range of sound this ensemble could deliver. There is no better demonstration of this than the set of 4 violin concertos that Vivaldi composed, forming his celebrated masterpiece, The Four Seasons. As was the practice in the Baroque period, the violin soloist is counted against the full orchestra, but there are also many passages that only have a solo cello and harpsichord complementing the soloist. These two instruments are called the continuo. Now, we don't have an authentic harpsichord. They are in very short supply in Ahige. And I think probably in Guadalajara as well. So for our purposes today, we will pretend that Vivaldi discovered practical uses of electricity 150 years before Thomas Edison. Yes, the electronic harpsichord has stood the test of time, and we are proud to have one here today. So our next piece is the Autumn Concerto from the Four Seasons. Vivaldi was inspired to compose this work by viewing landscape paintings by the Venetian artist Marco Ricci, an example of which you can see right here. At the head of each concerto is a sonnet or poem by Vivaldi that describes each movement. We will put these up on the screen and you will discover how the music mirrors the text of each of the 3 movements. So to perform the solo violin part in the Autumn Concerto, we are very pleased to introduce a much-loved local musician who has mesmerized thousands of people with his technical and musical ability. And this will be the very first time he has played in concert with an orchestra. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Victor Garcia.